I would like to welcome everybody to my podcast. I am Dr. Maria Kempinkska, and I have the unbelievable pleasure to introduce Mariette Richardson, who is an expert in the voice, and she coaches a large number of people in not only how to speak, how to present, and how to change the tone of their voice. And recently she has been listed for the Business Book Awards 2021 for The Hidden Speaker Inside, which is what a wonderful, wonderful topic. And the publisher is Taryn Johnson, and she is FCM Publishing. And I happen to know Taryn as well. And Taryn is an amazing publisher because she does recognize people that other people just somehow they don't see all the talent there. And, you know, Taryn does. But let's come back to the hidden speaker inside. This is such a big topic. But today, Mariette, we're focusing on business. And the first question, so we're going to ask, I'm sort of focusing on different questions because I think these are the things that go through people's minds. You have a fascinating background, and we have done some of your background in other interviews, but today it's, and you might give some of that to help people understand where you're coming from. And I know as soon as you speak, they will understand why you are the expert, because you have such a wonderful voice yourself. Is often when you listen to somebody speak, you say, can I have hints and tips for myself? So that's what I'm trying to focus on here. What are the hints and tips? And having run a business myself is what can be helpful for me. So this is very selfish, but nevertheless, I'm sure it's selfish for myself, not only myself, but for the rest of the world. So first of all, thank you for joining me, Mariette.
Maria, you are thank you very, very much. I'm in awe of voices. I'm really so interested. And, you know, if you think that we can use voice recognition as a security measure to identify ourselves, it just goes to prove how unique our voices are. And when well, let me first quickly tell you where I'm coming from. I was fortunate enough to have a father who was always part of the Toastmasters Club. And since we were very small, he used to put us on tables and chairs and said, speak, make a speech. And we loved it. In the beginning, of course, we were shy, but if you can grow up in an environment where you are appreciated, where you feel safe, that was the privilege I had. And from an early age on, I learned how to speak. And I always say speaking is like learning how to ride a bicycle. You are going to be wobbly in the beginning, but you are going to find your balance and enjoy the ride. And fortunately, that has happened to me. I've been involved in radio, television, and stage film, but today I'm so privileged to be able to apply all that experience and the skills and all the mistakes that I've made. And trust me, there were many.
But I know that you have the voice that is very versatile. And I know that, you know, sort of if I said, Mariette, you know, can we talk about this subject or that subject, you'd be able to. But coming to business, let's start with the most common problem that people have, the most common area that they're very, very nervous about, and that is public speaking. But there's two areas I'd like to separate. One here is public speaking to a very large audience and one to a smaller audience. So can you give us an introduction how to cope, A, with public speaking, and B, to the different audiences?
The only difference between a large audience and a small audience is the equipment you use. But I've been taught that even if you talk to the masses, you must still, in your own mind, speak as if you are speaking to one person. And Maria, just think about it. The person who's listening to us now in this podcast is one person at a time. Although we hope that many people are going to listen, you're not addressing the masses. Mm-hmm. And if you as a speaker can achieve that, that you speak to a person, it changes your whole presentation mode, your whole delivery mode, and it becomes more personal, more intimate. You are now addressing everything to this one person. But if you are in front of an audience, of course, the quality of your voice and the resonance and the skill to be able to project becomes super important. A microphone is a wonderful and good tool to use, but you also need to know how to use a microphone. But if you don't have a microphone available in a boardroom setting, you as a leader, even if you're sitting down or standing up, you need to open your shoulders. And my mantra is create space between ears and shoulders. And immediately your neck muscles relax. And we also release the tension in our necks. And we are able to bring the voice forward, which is a technique that you need to be taught, so that we speak from our mouths and can access our resonance cavities and not constrict our voice in our throat.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything else that you should consider, sort of when you are speaking to a very, very large audience, an arena, for example? Is there something else if you're feeling that the microphone just isn't working properly? What else can you do?
Do you mean on an audio level or
audio, well, either, both, because you're talking about now the voice as well as the movement, because I presume, as you were saying, relax between the voice and the shoulders. I started to relax as soon as you said that, and I thought, oh yes, I've got to do that. But it's true. You're now relaxing and you're now facing a very large audience, and you've got that one person in mind. Does it matter where they're sitting? Do you focus on somebody in the middle or at the back?
It's good that you asked that. Let's begin with you and then how you make eye contact. The first thing, of course, is body language. So my recipe would be, before you even start speaking, remember your body communicates before you've even opened your mouth. So when you walk, actually your whole performance begins from the minute that you get up in your chair and walk forward. Or in a boardroom, the minute that you enter the boardroom, people notice you and form an impression of you. Mm. We know how super important first impressions is. In fact, Professor Amy Cuddy said something very interesting in her book, Presence. She said, the minute you see a person for the first time, subconsciously you ask, can I trust this person? Can I respect this person? So you as a speaker need to come across as authoritative. And that is why your body language, open shoulders, relaxed, when you do gesture, make big movements, open hands, rather fewer good big gestures than nonsensical little ones that don't mean anything. That's just from a delivery point of view. Now let's talk about eye contact. I always say, make eye contact. Because the minute you make eye contact and you shift your gaze, I'm now talking about face-to-face, say we're in a room with an audience. Look at a person and make eye contact. There's nothing as good. The best feedback ever that you can get is when that person makes eye contact as well, and that person reacts, nods or smile or give you some feedback. Whenever we are communicating, it's a double-sided process that's happening. We need to engage. I need to make eye contact with you and you with me. And that is what sets the process. It's not me delivering a speech or giving a speech. It's the two of us communicating.
Lovely. That is so helpful. Okay, now I'm sure we'll come back to that and you'll add important aspects of performance delivery. And I know that you do one-to-one coaching with people as well, which I think is incredibly important as a psychotherapist as well, because it's on the one-to-one aspect of a relationship that you find out the nuances of every individual's foibles, if you like, when it comes to presentation, their own idiosyncrasies, the reasons why they do something and speak the way they do, or why they are hindered in a certain manner of speaking, or, you know, you can just work on their fluidity and the tempo, let's say. So I know you do that and you do that brilliantly, but these are general answers. So imagine now we're interviewing people in a business setting. So I'd like you, could you give us some hints and tips for the interviewing technique, both for the interviewee, I'm going for a job, and for the interviewer who is asking the questions. Now, obviously, the interviewee, we assume, is going to be nervous. If they're not, then that has its own connotations. But let's say the majority of people are nervous. There's slight anxiety, let's say. And the interviewer, they also have to try to get the best from that person. But what happens to the voice in both of those? How would you interpret that for us, Mariette?
Very good question. And it is so true. Our voices give us away. So my first, let's talk about the interviewee at the moment, the first person. Let's focus on him. He goes into that interview, and of course, as you said, nervousness. So here is my advice. Before you go in, the morning before your interview, try not to think about the interview. You have prepared, but I always ask them that evening before you go to bed, that's when your preparation stops. Because you have internalized everything. We can wake you up at 12 o'clock at night and you'll be able to answer all the questions. You know you've got it all inside here. So don't be afraid. Trust yourself that you've got it. Now we have to prepare you physically and psychologically. So I say have a good breakfast, first of all. Be relaxed, be fit and healthy, be strong, brush your teeth during the food party.
I know it seems so obvious, but it's so true that you need to be told.
If you don't do it, then your tongue goes to try and dislodge that food particle subconsciously.
Yeah, oh, amazing, and it's funny.
Can you imagine pitching up with spinach in between your teeth?
I know.
Don't want that. All right, and then you feel that you've done all the physical preparations. And why I'm saying eating something in the morning, a good protein breakfast, of course, to stabilize your energy levels, but also to avoid tummy rumblings.
Ah, what a good idea. Good point.
Yes, at least 2 hours before you go on, then your tummy, you've eaten something and your food has been digested. So that's important. Then you need your drink. Even in a job interview, I ask my clients to take a bottle of water with them.
Right.
And there are 2 reasons. First of all, it helps for a dry throat. But secondly, the minute you feel thrown and you've lost your train of thought, you take your bottle of water and take your time, because you are allowed to drink water. Unscrew the top, take a sip. And by the time that you've done that, you've given yourself 3 precious seconds to get back into it. Now, the very first thing that you have to do is listen. Listen so carefully. I know we know that, but we forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the question and answer what that person has asked you.
Mm.
And only that. I also teach them not to answer and then repeat what you've said just in different words. Do you know how many people do that, Maria?
No, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they get so nervous.
That's
And
true.
it's quite interesting because, you know, if we now talk about the interviewer and their technique, but I think in both these, they both are nervous at certain points because you've got to choose the correct person through that interview. Unless they're going for a very top job, you don't have that many interview times. And so you might interview somebody once or twice. And on that process, you have to choose somebody. Equally, the interviewee has 1 or 2 meetings, and through that, they are given a job. So those are so important. And not only the tone of voice, but doesn't the tone of voice actually also make an impact on the words that you're saying and the person, how they receives those words as well?
Oh, it is super important. That is actually going to make or break you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I teach them is we rehearse their first few words,
Right.
the way they join an online meeting. Always look up. You never ever join a meeting by looking down.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you do that, your body tells us that you are uncomfortable, insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole demeanor says, I don't really want to be here. I don't know how to handle this. But by lifting your chin, not too high, then you immediate tension on your neck muscles. The idea is to lift the chin, but tuck it in slightly. Right. That's good. Shoulders open. Now you look a person in the eye. When we are doing an online interview, Maria, I've learned that if I use speaker view, the head of the person I'm talking to is closer to my device camera. Ideally, when I have been in television studios and then we are taught to speak into the camera, actually, that's the best way to make proper eye contact. I'm looking at the camera now. But if, of course, it's a bit awkward if you're online, but please avoid to have the person you're talking to in the lower range of your screen, then you will be down looking sideways.
That is so helpful.
Eye contact is very important.
And as you say, even on this device, as we're speaking, you said before we started, to change the gallery view so that it's much more prominent. And I can see now how that works, although intuitively, because you want to include everybody, if you're speaking to a large number of people, you split the screen, don't you? Oh, yes. I have in the past. And you saying that, don't do that, has made me rethink the reason for not doing that. That's very helpful.
And I present a speakers forum where I have up to 8 people. But because I need to keep track of people's reactions, I don't use gallery view. But what I also do, I click and drag on the pictures or on their frames and always put mine at the bottom and the person I'm talking to at the top.
Very good.
Maria, just to get back to the interviewer, I think it's very important for the interviewer to use the person's name. Often, when I would say, Maria, that's a good question. Yes, Maria, we'll do that. It makes it more personal and it brings the listener back into it. All we need to achieve when we record an interview for somebody else to watch or listen to, we want to make that person feel as if he's sitting here with us.
And do you feel that relaxes them and gives them an opportunity to open up?
Yes, most definitely. Just to give you an idea, if I would if I do this, if I sit on top of my screen and I don't allow space, I haven't created a speaking area around me where you can psychologically enter into and become part of my speaking area. I don't want to shut you out. I need to bring you in.
Draw people in.
Yes.
So as an interviewer, you now have the process of, as you said, you've now made your client or the interviewee feel comfortable. What about presenting the questions so that you absolutely get the right answers?
Keep them simple and don't, you need to stick to one subject matter in one question. Yes. If you are going to ask me 2 questions sort of grouped into one, I need multiple questions. I need to try and answer those multiple questions. And then I tend to carry on and on and on, which we don't want. Let's keep it very simple and stick to one idea.
That's really good. Okay, so moving on from the interviewer and interviewee, let's talk about the boardroom. This has always been an interesting area of life because Simon Luffin has really recently spoken about blowing the doors off on events that happen, or basically the structure and processes in the boardroom. And it's such a wonderful book. And as we were talking about that, something that became more apparent, because when I worked at Jongleurs and owned the company, we had board meetings and so on. But what became more and more apparent is there are the quiet ones in the boardroom. And I know very successful female entrepreneurs that often feel that they can't be heard in the boardroom because the extroverts, the ones with the loudest voice, and men's voices resonate. And so they're not only female and their voices might be softer, but also they're introverts and they can't be heard. Are there any hints and tips you can give them to make sure that they are heard as well?
That is very good. Thank you for asking that. And again, I'm getting back to body language because we are not only communicating with our voices. That is something very important to remember. So let's take the face-to-face boardroom session first, and then I'll talk about the virtual boardroom. But when you enter a boardroom, first of all, how do you look? If you feel confident about your look and how you present yourself, how do you show up? How do you walk into that boardroom, even if you are an introvert? One of my clients, when I met him, I said to him, do you make eye contact? And he said, I deliberately don't make eye contact because it makes me feel even more embarrassed and insecure. Yes. So the moment I got him to put his phone away, and when walking in the corridors of the office or into a boardroom, to look up and make eye contact. Do you know what a difference that made to his confidence, Maria?
I can imagine.
Tremendous. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little story. He called me about 3 weeks ago and he said, I need coaching urgently. I said, he turned out to be a very good speaker. And he said, I've developed a stutter. We couldn't believe it, but it was because of lockdown and being isolated, and that he lost his confidence. So he said, I miss going to the office where they look at me and I stride in there and they say, good morning, sir, how are you? And he got feedback and positive feedback, and now we don't get that. So confidence is a really, really big factor. Has it ever happened to you that you came away from a meeting and you said to yourself, I should have asked that, or I should have commented on that, or I should have participated and I didn't do it. It's because you didn't know, probably didn't have the courage to interrupt, to say something. Now, here is a tip on how to make yourself heard, even if you are insecure. Open up your body. Mm-hmm. Sit up straight, make eye contact, look, and even if you have to use your hand, this is a good one, just this. I'd like to comment on that. May I come in here, please? Something like that. But your body first needs to say, here I am. For a lady, I say, sit, move more towards the front of your chair. Because it somehow also, I think we can then immediately straighten our backs. The minute you sit back in your chair, do you see what happens?
Oh, totally. Right, I'm going to come forward, sit up. I feel as if I'm at school, but you're right. Sit up, girls.
Can you move back in your chairs for those who are listening to the audio version of it? You immediately slump, your shoulders round, and we want an open, friendly body which says, I'm here for you. I want to engage with you. Talk to me. Good. And then your first words. So I would say, think of how you are going to start. Even if you say, I'd like to come in, or may I comment on that? For example, let's say we're going to use that. Those words, you prepare them in your head, and then you say them in your strongest voice possible. May I come in there? May I comment on that? Pause, and then you say what you wanted to say. But those first words, they get you out of the starting line. They help you.
It's almost like a fishing line that you're throwing in to interrupt. So that's, may I comment on that? That's so useful to know the words and how to say it, because very often people are so intimidated, frankly, by a boardroom sort of setup. And if other people know each other and you're new and you go into the boardroom, but also it's very useful for anybody to say something in a boardroom. Have a comment somewhere.
Yes. And Maria, it also, the feedback you get, and even if you don't get enough feedback, it doesn't matter. It's for yourself.
Yeah.
You can walk out there and say to yourself, I did it.
Exactly. And I think that's so true, because it doesn't matter whether your question will alter the direction of the company or change the financial situation, which is obviously, it doesn't always happen in a boardroom. It's a review very often. It's not necessarily strategic. But as you say, for you, it gives you that confidence. So get used to it. Rehearse. Use it as a rehearsal to do that. And as you've said, because this is such a big subject for a lot of people. So be very confident as you walk in the room. Eye contact. Speak to people potentially. Feel, sort of make friends if you can. Make it as friendly as you can to open up, so they know who you are. So that when they speak to you, you're not just somebody that sits there in the corner. So as you say, a lot of the preparation is from the minute you walk in and then sit down and raising your hand to say, almost like, I'm here, I'm ready to speak. Now, can I make a comment? And then making a comment.
Add something to that, Maria. I forgot to mention that. If the boardroom has a source of natural light, a window, here's the tip. You choose a seat opposite the window.
Okay.
So that you are in the light.
Very good.
Light. Now, if there isn't, in many boardrooms, there are only overhead lights, please do not go and sit directly under a light. We want to avoid shadows on our faces.
Ah,
So you
excellent.
will choose the seat that would be slightly, if the light is here, then you just choose a seat here or here so that the light falls on your face at an angle.
I love it. I absolutely love that. Okay, so controlling nerves, then you've already said before they go in, it's making friends, being aware, taking a breath, looking straight ahead. And is there a breathing technique you can use before you speak to control the nerves?
Oh, yes. My favorite one is the 4 counted, 4 counted. I think I might have mentioned it to you.
I love it though. I think it's so powerful.
It's very useful. It calms your nerves. It's rhythmic. It takes your mind off the problem ahead. Even if you're in a boardroom and people are talking and you would now like to make your comment, before you do that, you can also do the breathing because nobody knows that you're doing it.
Exactly. That's amazing.
In my studio, I would say, breathe into the count of 4, hold your breath for 4 counts, and then I would say, breathe out on shh, and keep it very, very smooth and equal. But if you're in a boardroom, you would just breathe out on count of 4 and then stay without breath for 4 counts. That is a very good one. But if you are, if you go to the ladies' room before the meeting, you can also do that puffing one. That helps, that it gives the diaphragm a little bit of a wake up, but it also just gives you the panting one. It just also relaxes you.
Excellent. So as a singer, when I was training to sing, which I'm not a singer, by the way, but I did get a recall for, I did get a job actually before I started Jumbers and had to give it up to start the comedy clubs. And thank God for the world, to be honest. I don't think I'd have done that well. I was okay, let's put it that way. But coming back, now we're back in the room and you've given some amazing hints, tips for everybody. Doesn't matter how high up you are, to just, I think what I love about the exercises as well and what you're talking about, it helps you focus into the room. What am I doing here? I'm preparing to enter into a new space. I'm preparing to come into a space, because very often in business, you move from one element to another. Doesn't matter how high up you are. You move from one area. I'm talking to the staff, I'm talking to somebody else, and now I'm going to report. So just that moment to focus, take the 4 deep breaths, hold them and breathe them out before you go into a room is so useful to focus your energy, but also focus your mind. Now, a tricky one, not so much for you, I know, but for people, negotiation. You're going in, and more people are entering into the entrepreneurial world. And I know lots of people that shy away from negotiation, or who actually are very good at it, but may not know they're very good at it. But there are fewer and fewer people that enjoy this process. So you're going into a meeting where you're negotiating either a partnership, or you're negotiating some sort of commodity, or you're negotiating on somebody's behalf. But the whole process is negotiation. So what can you tell us about how to prepare for that?
Maria, I also coach salesmen.
Oh, perfect. There you are.
In a way, negotiation.
It's the same thing, because I was going to move on to sales. So we'll incorporate both.
Yes, you are actually selling your idea. Yeah. Now, when we do that, we need to be assertive. Mm-hmm. And there is a way of coming across as more assertive. I teach clients, begin your sentences with, I want, I need, I require. Mm-hmm. If you can just imagine how much more powerful those sentences would be compared to, oh, I would like, I think. You see what I mean?
Oh, totally. I think that's fantastic.
Understand where I'm coming from. I need you to buy this book to understand what I mean.
Yeah.
I require this project by Friday noon.
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you come across as a person who knows what she wants or he wants.
Yeah.
I even teach them to say, keep demand, I demand in their back pocket.
Just in case.
Sometimes we might use that. And you can be assertive in a nice way by still using a gentle way of saying, you don't have to shout, but by using a strong word, which I call my set of winning words.
Okay.
You are actually saying the choice of words and the way you say that. That is what gives you the upper hand in negotiations.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk about, I was going to sort of move on to, no, let's come back to sales because it's under a new heading in a way. And I want to cover that heading shortly under a number of other things. But we're talking now motivation, we're talking about negotiation. But what if you're now resolving conflicts? So now you're instead of you being a negotiator for those terms, as you've said, I want, I need, I require, and the last one, I demand, which are very powerful terms, but also, you know, the terms of taking that control is the next one, which is mediation. And if you now have to mediate two staff members, how do you cope with that in the way that you speak and the tone? And as you say, that not only do the words give you the impetus and the strength and the status, but also it also gives you an inflection in your body and it does bring you forward, doesn't it? So when you're now talking and you're trying to deal with conflict in the workplace, how do you change into being a mediator between two people, whether they're business partners, whether they're directors, or whether they're staff members? What's the change that you make?
So true. You can imagine, let's look at the scenario. We have two people and they are probably highly frustrated. Emotion gets into this now. And you as the mediator will have to take all emotion out. And emotion then out of the tone of your voice as well. Don't lose the intensity of your voice. And actually in that process, I would even project stronger.
Okay.
So that the quality of my voice speaks on behalf of me. I would say, John, Mary, thank you for joining me. Let us sit down. Keep it short, no emotion. And then I would say, John, let's hear from you first. And the minute that Mary wants to intervene, we'll have to say also with your gestures, body language, hang on, Mary, it's John's turn. Da, da, da. And vice versa. But the most important thing is we don't always realize what an impact we as speakers have. Your voice can control the situation and the way you use your voice. You use pauses, you stay calm, you speak with warmth and empathy, and you do not become involved in this fight.
I love that because I've actually got a certificate or a qualification for negotiation, not only negotiation, but conflict resolution. But one of the areas that wasn't touched on, again, is this area of the voice. How do you speak? And maybe that was because also we did it on a one-to-one, that you'd go to see one person, then the other. But this area where you've got two people speaking one against another, and as you say, there's a heightened energy. And also therapists have to deal with this. So it's keeping focused, keeping calm, but direct, knowing that, so you have to have that sort of center that is so sure of what you're doing and what your role is, that comes out, that as you, what I did like and unexpectedly that you said, I wasn't expecting you to say, push a little bit stronger. John, you speak first. Mary, you speak, or Mariette, it's your turn, and Fred, it's your turn. So that they know that you are controlling them, because I think what you're saying as a psychotherapist also is very helpful, is you're creating the boundaries and stopping people from overwhelming each other and themselves, actually, because if you allow them to carry on and on and on, whether it's in business meetings, actually, and it can be at work just as much, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the boardroom or in a therapy room, people can get overwhelmed with their own feelings, let alone overwhelm the other person. So it's also controlling them. And by you taking that time to pause, it can help everybody calm a little bit.
We do not realize the value of a pause, Maria.
Absolutely.
I almost want to say you can't pause long enough.
Okay, really?
No, honestly, I would say, John, take a moment and think about what you want to say. Do you see how I use long pauses and I'm calming him down already, just purely by the sound of your voice?
Exactly. I think that is so unbelievably powerful. And also, I also come back to a boardroom. So when we're in business, those big heightened meetings, whether they're negotiation or shareholders talking in smaller businesses, shareholders, directors, you know, that moment to stop and think about what you're doing. And that pause gives us that opportunity. What am I doing here? What am I after? What am I thinking about? And your point about being direct, think about the question you're going to ask, the simplicity of it.
Sorry to interrupt. There's another important thing for a woman, a female. The minute we get uptight and anxious, our voices seem to rise in tone. So if the minute you pause, it's almost as if you halt yourself and say, Mariette, calm down.
Okay.
Voice goes down. And we stop that.
You know, that's interesting because, again, I have spoken to a number of women in business, in, you know, sort of in the boardroom, and they often feel that they can't be heard. And I have the joy, I'm very lucky because my voice has a lower tone. I was a mezzo soprano, by the way, as a singer, but as a speaker, especially on the phone, people say, and you're Mr. I say, Maria, actually, and they're always apologetic. So it always gets it off to a good point for me. It's always an advantage for me, but it's funny. You just have to laugh it off. But, you know, unexpectedly, I've got a lower resonance to my voice. But I think you're right. Women have got that higher lilt, and the higher lilt is also very soft, and it's wonderful for children, wonderful for the loving context, but in the boardroom can be suddenly, it can spiral out of control and become too sharp and perhaps can lose emphasis.
Oh, immediately. And it becomes irritating.
And irritating, good point. So, and we're in the danger of getting into, women are always hysterical zone, which we're not, of course, are we, Mariette, darling?
We are.
So I think as a boss, coming back to, you're now going in, you're studying the boat now for a lot of people. I believe that after COVID, a lot of people are going to have to study their boat, their company. And as a boss, they too may be nervous coming back to this point. And it doesn't matter what level of boss, whether you're in a small company or a larger one, people need to know that you can take them somewhere, that you are in charge, that you're confident, that you know where you want to take the company. And I'm nervous myself. I've just had all sorts of things thrown at me through COVID, and I hear this from a number of people. They've been isolated. Isolation has been one of the worst things to impact on people psychologically. It unnerves people, it causes chaos. So you're going into a world of chaos, but you want people to stay with you and trust you that you're doing the right job. But you're nervous as a boss going in to say this. What can I do as a boss to make sure that people trust me
And that's a wonderful question. And you are so right. We have we've learned another way of communicating, and that is online. It's a whole different way that we needed to communicate. We don't have the visual cues that we used to. So now let's take this scenario. You're back at work, first day back at work. Everybody is excited to see each other and they might be chattering. And you walk into that boardroom and everybody's talking. You just stay calm, body language open, friendly, a smile. Did you know that 80% of people react to a smile? Smile works wonders. Open, even if it's not a broad smile, if you're not a smiler, but a friendly face, and you look at them and they will quiet it down. And then in a good, wonderful, strong voice. Isn't it wonderful to be back? I couldn't wait to get up this morning. Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you. Strong voice, calm, commanding, attention and respect. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, and also something that you have implied as well a number of times is how you stand. You know, that you don't move around, as you've already said, that you keep focused, that you aren't jittery, because it also comes out in your body language. So the preparation of the breathing before you go in, you take that moment to find your space in the room, wait for everybody to realize you're there and take that, take the space.
Remember Meryl Streep in Women Wears, what was it? Women Wears Prada. Or what
Women Wear Prada, yes. Can you remind everybody?
Her body language. She didn't need to say a word, but they were, remember when she arrived at the office, how they scurried around.
I know. That is, you know, very typical of certain organizations. I'm not sure how conducive it is nowadays to our well-being and our work, but you know, every organization has their own way of being. But yes, very funny, and it says it all just by entering the room and saying one thing. I want to move on in a moment to motivation, but before we do, I had an experience, and I just want to share this with you. And this is quite a profound experience for me. Not the experience itself wasn't. The incident wasn't profound, but what I learned from this was quite profound. And many years ago, I had a fantastic party. I'm quite good at giving parties. And as people were leaving, somebody was leaving after a long time of drinking, and they got into their car. And both myself and another friend realized that this particular person had drunk too much. They didn't realize they had drunk too much. Now, we didn't want to embarrass them by taking the keys off them. But in the car, she was just about to turn on the keys. And I said, please, I was so sweet. Please don't drive. You know, you've had too much to drink. Let's get a cab. And this person was totally ignoring me. And another friend of mine came up and said, stop, take your keys out and step out of the car. And the person turned off the engine, stepped out of the car and gave her the car keys. I learned my big lesson there, because with all the chaos and mayhem of too many drinks, but also whatever else was happening in that person's life, it actually arrested her, if you like. It made her stop driving and come out of the car and take a little bit of time to think before she got into a car and drove off. Now, what she was doing was totally unconscious. So she wasn't deliberately being drunk, and we don't know if she was over the limit or not. That's not the point. The point was how the friend of mine actually made an impact. So when people are in a heightened state of anxiety or chaos or shouting, just that direct command can be so helpful.
Oh, that is a perfect example, Maria. So true. You had emotion in your voice when you spoke to her. You were almost pleading with her.
Yeah.
whereas your friend took all emotion out
Exactly.
and simply got to the point.
Yeah.
And gave a command.
And you know what? That taught me such a big lesson at times like that. When people are heightened emotionally, to plead is useless. To be sweet is useless, because you're almost engaging with them on their level, on that emotional level. You've got to tell them to stop. You've got to command them. And it comes back almost in the army, or the police do this, or the firemen might do that. Oh, please come out of the burning room. Isn't going to cut it. Get out now. Open the door. Give instructions. Be clear. Tell people what to do, because chaos can reign on a number of people. And particularly, as we say now, the world is a little bit more in chaos than we would like. So sometimes people just need those instructions. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. When we go back, people are going to, first of all, be excited. Overexcited, maybe a little bit insecure. We've lost a lot of our confidence. We need to regroup and relearn how to communicate. And also, if you're not a natural leader, but you are placed in that position, these tips of body language, commanding voice, breathing, a resonant voice, all those factors would help you tremendously. You don't have to say much. It's not so much about what you say and how you say it, but it's also about how you make people feel when they listen to you.
And if you give them a command,
yes,
that also can help them feel a little bit more safe, because they know that you know what you're telling them. You're not asking them to run back into a burning room. You're telling them to come out, because I know that by coming out, you're going to be safe. So that is so powerful. So that's how the voice is a powerful thing, and the message is powerful, and especially at this time. So we're coming to the end, but I didn't want to leave you, Mariette, and I know very kindly you've given us a lot of information here, without the aspect of motivation, self-motivation, and motivating others through the voice. So let's start off with motivating others. So if we're now talking about, as you said, the boss comes back in, that they themselves are a little bit unsure, but if they take a breath and they speak to the boardroom and they take over and say, welcome, we're all back, isn't it wonderful? How do you continue from there to motivate others? What else in the way you say something can motivate others? And is there a tone that you should always use? So should it be a heightened tone? Can you go higher?
No, I would never, ever go higher.
Okay.
No, in business, a high-pitched voice is not appropriate at all. We use our pauses well, and we keep our voices strong and commanding. But also, Maria, your choice of words again. We need to choose our words well. I always say, chip away the clutter and present your audience only with the gold nuggets, the good words. Which say something. We don't need a lot of unnecessary words, especially if you're a leader. So we are going to say, I'm committed. I'm here for you. We're a team. We're working towards a goal. It's always about we and us. Team, I'm relying on you. Those type of words that we use are very important. Not, I think we can do it.
Yeah.
I know we can do it. I believe by January this next year, we would have picked up and we would have covered all the aspects that were neglected over the last 18 months, things like that.
That's brilliant. And what I love about what you do also is you help people find the words. So your work isn't just on the voice. You help them put the voice use the voice through the words as well. And you give them the appropriate words as well, which is so powerful. And finally, and I think this is equally as important, a lot of people have lost their vavavum. A lot of people are very confused. Their mojo, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people in my work, they wake up, they're depressed, they can't get out of bed, they've lost their sense of direction. How in the morning, what do you say to yourself that to get yourself out of bed? Is there a mantra you can say that will actually enable you to spring out of bed? So we know that in the forces, you would have a sergeant coming in and shouting and telling everybody, get out, get up, make the bed, and I will be back in 10 minutes. And, you know, parents try to do that with their children as much as children listen. But here you've got to be both the sergeant and yourself, haven't you? So you are in charge of yourself. So do you use commanding instructions to yourself instead of self-soothing instructions?
I think you have to be quite hard on yourself.
Okay. Yes, that's what I was wondering. It's good to know.
I've been in hotel quarantine for 2 weeks, 11 nights to be precise, because I traveled back from a country where it was necessary to hotel quarantine. And I set off so well. I know that routine and discipline works for me, for my psyche. I feel a lot better if I am disciplined. Got up in the morning, had breakfast, did my Pilates online class. But slowly but surely, the isolation eroded that confidence that I had.
Yeah.
And it was a very good lesson, because it gave me a better understanding of what people go through when they are isolated. So we have to also have the empathy for people.
Yeah.
For you then as an individual, I would say, get up at the same time, set your alarm clock.
Definitely.
Stay healthy. Go for your exercises, whatever it is, walks or whatever you do. Eat well. Eat really well. Drink your water. Now we fixed a speaker needs to look like a speaker on the inside and on the outside, and a leader as well. So now you feel strong and healthy. Then you get dressed. For a woman, you wear your lipstick, your war paint. But
I agree with that.
You've got to do that. Yeah. Then you feel good on the outside and on the inside. And now let's use the online scenario, for example. We know we have to go online at 12 o'clock. I've done everything, all the preparation, and now I just need to relax, think of something else, make a cup of tea perhaps, but I don't take dairy with my tea at all, because it causes phlegm, mucus in my throat, so I avoid that. Drink water. And now I do my breathing exercise. I do that 4 count 1, and I do my speech exercises. I lose my jaw. Sounds crazy, but it works.
No, they do that in singing, actually. Absolutely.
Shall I give you two? Yeah. Hello. The first one is, to the count of 5, you yawn, but every time you open your mouth slightly wider. If you listen to us, you can try it at home, and you just go 1, slightly open, 2, a little bit more, 3, and on 5, give a proper wide yawn as big as you can. And then I'm going to give you another fun one, but it releases tension like you can't believe. Brilliant. This one is, you scream at the top of your lungs.
Oh yeah, now that is my favorite. That's the Liza Minnelli in Cabaret, under the bridge with a train going over. I always loved that moment, just to scream like crazy to release everything.
You don't have a train bridge, you scream without sound.
I know. Absolutely. So Maria, what words do you use when now lying in bed? I remember it, as an entrepreneur, you often, as you are as well, we have to do so much more than ever before. Everything is on our shoulders. Our our tax, the accounts, the sales, everything. So, and you're lying in bed and it's one of those days you just don't want to get out of bed and you need self-motivation. One of the things I've always said to myself is I will do this. I will get that. I don't know how, but I'm going to do this. And I think the emphasis was also very much, no, you can do this. But what type of things would you say to yourself?
I start with one tiny thing, even if it is to send one email or make one call.
Yeah.
You know how you eat an elephant and it really works.
Yeah.
You get up and you do something small.
Yeah.
I know that feeling, and I really sympathize with people who just don't have the energy. It feels as if you literally can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stand up, get up,
Mm.
and put your feet down
Mm.
on the floor. But it really helps to set yourself one small task, and when you can tick that one off, it helps, and then you can go to the next one.
So in a way, it's also that I think the biggest thing about being self-motivated is to also be your own sergeant major. Don't lie in bed too long. Get up when the alarm goes. I always set my alarm the night before, or it's on regular. So I set it 3 times and get up. Just get up. Don't even lie in bed. Don't even think about lying in bed. Just get up. Do your normal morning routine. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am going to do this. Today is going to be the day. You have to look at yourself. You have to motivate yourself. You have to be your own sergeant major, and you have to have that psychological approach to yourself that you can make this happen. It doesn't mean you're going to use that tone of voice for the rest of the day or to other people, but to yourself, you need to really ramp it up. And I think am I correct in saying that by ramping up your own energy in the way you speak, that actually raises your energy level? Because you can't go on stage and speak to an audience, and this is the whole thing about comedians, and every time I've done a speech you come away so exhausted because it is an exhausting process, isn't it?
You exert that extra energy, and you need energy for yourself and also for your audience.
Yeah.
Also energize them. It really takes it out of you, but then you know that you've done a good job.
If
you are exhausted afterwards.
I know.
The final one that I would like to add, if you have a minute,
of course.
I would also like to bring it's very important for me to teach my clients how to place their voices correctly. Seeing that the voice is formed here in the voice box, we have to consciously learn, and that is not an easy thing. But if you go through the training to speak from your mouth, because that's where your voice resonated. And then I would literally listen to myself and say, and feel the vibration on the lips. Then I know my voice is here. I can open, my jaw is relaxed, and I can speak.
Wonderful. Mariette Richardson, it's been such a pleasure. And I just want to remind everybody that your book is The Hidden Speaker Inside.
And Free the Hidden Speaker.
Oh, Free the Hidden Speaker. I'm so sorry. Free the Hidden Speaker, which I think we have. Free the Hidden Speaker. And it's listed for the Business Book Awards 2021. Publisher Taryn Johnson, FCM Publishers. It is on Amazon, but also you can, is it on Audible yet?
Exactly.
It is. Now, what I loved about listening to your book was also the intonation that you gave and how you prepared and how you spoke. So in itself, it's great. I always believe it's great to have the book itself. So Free the Hidden Speaker Inside. Get the book because you can always refer back to it when you're on the train, but also listen, because just you talking and reading the book and telling us about your thoughts actually teaches us as well. So Maria, thank you so much for today. And I hope everybody listening has received such a lot of information. Well, I know I have, and it's been so useful.
Maria, it was lovely chatting to you, and I hope you will always hear my voice.
I know, I will now. drop your shoulders. Even though I've trained as a singer, drop your shoulders. Thanks again.